Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Just one thing I wanted to say. I did that mangrove video, and at the start of it, I talked about, the guys saying I was begging. I guess Canadian culture and American culture really are more different than I thought, because a number of people thought that I was apologizing. And I guess it sounded a bit apologetic, but I will never apologize to somebody who says that I'm begging, not in any way, shape, or form. At least that's not my intent. I just wanted to explain my stand, what I believe, and I know that this channel is worth money, and that's what I wanted to say. And I guess maybe I'm too gentle about it for certain cultures, but be that as it may, I was actually trying to stand up for myself, but doing it in a way that was the way I like to be, I guess, whatever that means. Today we're taking a look at this knife. This is by CIVIVI. That's why it's got the letter C right there. This is the Exarch. I'm calling this a sort of a budget gentleman's folder. It definitely has that sort of gentleman's folder kind of flavor, being a thin, slim style knife, and you might be interested in it. You can get it in G10 in three colors, this black, a bright blue, and a light gray. And those all have D2 steel, or you can get it in a carbon fiber with Damascus for around twice as much, close to. So yeah, it's a front flipper, hollow grind, like I said, D2 steel, deep carry pocket clip right and left, and there's actually a lanyard attachment back there too, liner lock. So if any of those things interest you, maybe take a break, watch this review. My videos tend to be around 20 minutes long because I like to go in depth of what's going on this thing. I have done thorough testing on this, and I want to tell you all about it. Keep watching. So here it is. I think it's got a beautiful blade. I like the satin finish. I might prefer stonewash, but on a gentleman's kind of folder, I think satin finish has got a bit better of a look to it. A slight drop point here, bit of a belly, straight section back here. You've heard me say this before. Is this a forward choil or a sharpener's choil? If it's a sharpener's choil, it's too small, too big. If it's a forward choil, it's too small. I can put the tip of my finger there if I rest it, if I'm holding it back here like this. That can be okay, but that's basically for like doing a letter opening kind of motion. I'm bumping into my camera here. Hold on, I gotta adjust stuff. Yeah, it can be used that way if we want to. I would have liked that to be a little bit smaller, actually. And like I said, D2, it's got a tiny little D2 right there on the ricasso, and that's the only writing on the blade. The only other marks is the C right here, so I like that. The spine of the blade is chamfered, so it's a soft spine. You're not gonna hurt your thumb at all anywhere on there, so that's very nicely done. A full thickness right up to here, as you can see by that flat section there. And then it comes down to a fairly thin tip. So yeah, you can see that tip is nice and delicate. It's a little more sharpened on one side than the other, but not by much. It's fairly close to a centered sharpening. And it's nice. Maybe I would have liked, the flats to be horizontally sanded while this hollow grind is vertically sanded. Yeah, but it looks okay. Like I said, it's a hollow grind, which means it stays thin behind the grind for a good number of sharpenings. And it actually is very thin behind the grind as well, and it slices wonderfully. This is not, a food prep kind of knife or anything. But I did use it to cut some stuff, and yeah, it cuts very, very well. Functional knife indeed. Some of you are asking, is this a 3-inch knife? Unfortunately, for those people that want a sub 3-inch knife, no, this thing is a little over 3 inches. It's 3.185 inches long from the tip to the closest spot on the handle. I really wish they would have made this choil a little bit smaller and made the blade just a tiny bit shorter, and maybe even the handle. And then it would be a much better sort of 3-inch style gentleman's folder. So, and those people who want a high-end version, yeah, get the carbon fiber and the Damascus. So this budget version, though, if you can carry knives that are over 3 inches, it's quite nice. My hands are, just into the extra large range, and it sticks out on either end. That's why I'm saying they could have made it a little bit smaller. The action, very good. The lockup, exactly how I want a nice new knife to be. It's got ball bearings in there, and it's got the phosphor bronze cages, which I really like, which CIVIVI likes to do. The lock release, there's jimping on it. It's just a little bit of a cutaway here, but there's plenty of real estate to get your thumb in there to push the liner lock out of the way. So yeah, works wonderfully. Detent is very good. It wants to stay closed when it's closed. You can shake it all you want. At least this one, the blade doesn't come out. The jimping on the flipper is done well. It comes around the corner. You can do the over the front flipping. At least some people can. I can't do it very well. Because you have to hold, you need the pocket clip if you're going to do that. Hold on to the pocket clip with your little fingers and then still reach over. There we go. Did it that time. Didn't do it beautifully, but yeah, you can do the reach over, but not very well. It's mostly good to do the thumb on the side. You push with your thumb and away it goes. As soon as it overcomes the detent, it just flies open. Nice, smooth action. Some more stuff about the handle. We've got lots of skeletonizing in there. We've got a back spacer. It's not magnetic, so it's probably aluminum. I should double check that. It'll be on the screen. The liners sort of are looks like it's a bead blasted finish on the liners. One thing I just noticed now when I was looking at it, and you can probably see it too, there is a buildup of skin tissue right there along the G10. From pushing over like that, my skin was catching on there. The pocket clip, it's got the flush screws, which CIVIVI likes to do, and it's a deep clip, right and left. And this is a T8 over here, T8 over here. These screws are T6. The front of the pocket clip is flat. And because they used flush screws, I wish they would have made the pocket clip a little bit smaller. A little bit smaller this way. The height of it, the depth of it, because you can very easily get pants to bottom out on this thing, no problem. The lip over the top here I really like. Well, let's just demonstrate. It wants to climb over right away, just like you would hope it does. It's got very strong tension down, but it automatically goes right to the full depth. And you can just see a little bit of the tip of the back spacer lanyard hole thing right there. And so I really wish this pocket clip was a little bit smaller and that the spring tension here was a little bit less. It's a very strong spring. So strong that sometimes, you have to push a little bit extra to get it in your pocket because it's really grabbing here. I really like that it's right and left friendly. And since they put it on top of the G10, they didn't mill out any of the G10. There is a hole there, but it leaves the show side looking pretty nice. It doesn't look bad at all. We've got huge chamfers on either side of the G10, and they've got diagonal lines milled in them. Sort of makes it look a little bit like a, maybe a little bit like a chevron. The steel screw for the pivot pin there, it's quite good. The tolerances of the screw heads are very good. The only main thing to talk about before I take it apart is the pocket, the lanyard hole. Let's see if I can get a good close-up shot of this. So I like that kind of lanyard hole. If you're going to use a lanyard, it's not going to bulk up out on the handle, which is kind of nice. And it's out at the very end of the handle, which is very nice. Doesn't get in the way of the pocket clip. Well done. I like that quite a lot. I especially like that they didn't try to make that pointy like a glass breaker or something, because that would be very silly on a knife like this. So now let's take this knife apart and check out the insides. You're going to see some fresh new oil on here because I took it apart, cleaned it, and put it back together again after I had recorded the rest and realized I forgot to record it apart. So yeah, skeletonizing. They could have taken some steel out of here, I think, to make this a little bit lighter. Ceramic detent, ceramic ball bearings in the phosphor bronze cage. Very nice. It looks like it's got a round pivot pin, but that's because, let's see if I can push it out. It's got a key in there. So it's got the negative part of the key on the, where the logo is on the pin, and then in the G10 it's got the male part of the key, and it only fits one way, and that stops it from spinning. It gives it the advantage of having the full surface of the pivot pin. Well made, well put together. I forgot to mention blade centering earlier. Yeah, pretty much perfect. Okay, now it's time to do all the dimensions and everything. I realized I hadn't measured the grind angles, and so now you can see that it's a beautifully, nicely polished cutting edge, like it wasn't before. And that's because as soon as I measured them, since I had them on the sharpening rig, I decided to sharpen them right away. I sharpened them to 20 degrees per side because of how thin they are behind the grind. I wanted them to have support. If they're too shallow and very thin behind the grind, you can have problems no matter what kind of steel it is. And with D2, I usually say between 18 and 20, so I did these guys 20 degrees per side. Let's put the measuring tape on the screen. Let's go over all of the dimensions and stuff. When I remove this, I'm done with the dimensions and I'm starting my concluding statements. The weight of this knife, 73 grams, 2.55 ounces. Nice and light. The sharpness from the factory, 140 bess. Now it's about 35. I'm pretty good at sharpening. Cutting edge. The cutting edge length, 7.36 centimeters, which is 2.898 inches. The length of the blade tip to the handles, 8.09 centimeters, 3.185 inches. The thickness of the blade, 2.92 millimeters, which is 0.1145, so just a little bit under an eighth of an inch. The blade depth, its biggest right about there, that is 17.43 millimeters, that's 0.686 of an inch. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, about halfway along that flat section is where I measured it, 0.37 millimeters, 14.5 thousandths of an inch. The grind angle, 21.4 degrees, 24.6 degrees, and it's still cut very well. At the belly, the last inch here, it was more like 19 degrees per side, and now it's 20 all the way along. The handle length, not counting the pocket clip sticking out, and actually not counting the lanyard part sticking out. So I measured the G10 on this measurement. 10.17 centimeters, 4.004 inches. The grip area, so more like the flat section here, it's around 9.5 centimeters, about 3 3/4 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, 11.96 millimeters, which is 0.471 of an inch. Nice and thin. The handle depth, 18.06 millimeters, 0.711 of an inch. The knife depth when it's closed, the widest point is up along here close to the pivot end, 19.73 millimeters, 0.7765 of an inch. And the total length of the knife when it's open, and now I measured everything, including, the pocket clip and everything, almost exactly, well, my measurements, 18.5 centimeters, which is 7.283 inches. Yeah. So this is a knife that, it fits a big hand, like I showed you earlier, and it certainly fits smaller hands. Functional, useful. Is there any cons with this? I already mentioned some cons. I wish the pocket clip was a little bit smaller. I like the colors. I wish they had more color options. I really wish they'd done a wood-handled version. That would be really top-notch. But from what's on here, the only con I have, let me double-check my notes, is, about that sharpener's choil. I wish it was smaller. And if it was smaller, then they could have made the blade, 2.95 inches long. And then a lot more people could buy this knife. It's a small percentage, but it's a lot of people. So I wish it was a tiny bit shorter. It's very thin at the tip. Now is that a con or is that a pro? It really depends on how you look at it. You might want a very thin tip. If you don't like a very thin tip, well, this one's got a very thin tip. The fact that this catches lint, that's a very minor thing. The fact that this too strong of a tension, that can be adjusted. The only other thing really is, the size of that pocket clip. There are an awful lot of pros on this knife. Oh, and I didn't go over the prices. Yeah, the price of this knife. How much does it cost? Well, $49.30 at White Mountain Knives. That's US dollars, of course. You save 10% with coupon code CCE, and that makes it $44.37. I think that's a good deal for what you get. The Damascus with the carbon fiber blade, $95 US dollars. Take off 10%, $85.50. Very good. Canadians, if you want to buy this from White Mountain Knives after the discount, it is 57 Canadian dollars. Unless you want to buy the expensive one, that's $103 Canadian. If you don't want to buy outside of Canada, then you're going to have to get it from a place like Blades Canada, aka Warriors and Wonders, $95 or $150. So 57 or 95. Take your pick. The shipping is actually going to be a little bit cheaper from White Mountain than it is from Blades Canada. So that's the main reason I keep buying from places like White Mountain Knives. I would like to support Canadian businesses. I just can't afford it. Would I rather pay 57 Canadian or 95 Canadian for this? In the last 2 years, between 2019 and 2020, I lost, I think, about 14 knives to the border, but I bought over 200. Actually, it was closer to 300, wasn't it? So, yeah, I'm losing less than 5% at the border. So, this is way more than 5% savings buying from White Mountain Knives. That's why I keep buying from there. Another place to try, actually I should look it up, is Integrity Knives. It's a nice young knife store in Ontario, Canada. I think he carries CIVIVI. And if he does, I'll leave his link down below, and his prices will have been on the screen, especially if they're better than Blades Canada. If you're in Europe, try something like Knives and Tools. They've got local stores for a number of different countries in Europe. They are 36 euros for one of these, or 70 for the Damascus one. Not bad. I didn't find any stores that have this in the UK. And the rest of you, you'll have to find the stores yourself if you're in other places. Please leave a comment what you think of this knife. I really like it. It's a great cutting knife. It's quite light, and yet it's very budget friendly. Not that many times you see a good, I'll call it a gentleman's folder at a budget gentleman's folder. You only see them every once in a while. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. The very next video I make will include who's the Patreon winner for December. So all I have left to say is, remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.